Donald Trump and Republican leaders are suddenly terrified because a seat they believed was safely in their grip is now on the verge of slipping away. Tennessee's 7th District, a deep red stronghold that Trump won by more than 22 points, is no longer the guaranteed victory they counted on. After the blue tsunami that crashed through earlier in November, the ground has shifted fast. And with the special election coming up on December 2nd, the GOP is facing a nightmare scenario, watching a district they once dominated flip right out of their hands. The question is simple. How did a race they thought was a guaranteed win turn into their biggest warning sign yet? Right now, in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, a notable shift is underway, one that many might overlook. According to an Emerson College poll released the day before Thanksgiving, the Democratic candidate, State Representative Afton Bane, is closing in on the MAGA Republican, Matt Vaneps. The numbers are close. Matt Vaneps at 48%, Afton Bane at 46%. Other candidates account for 2%, and 5% of voters remain undecided. What is striking here are the independents, late-breaking voters, and motivated citizens who have decided to support the Democratic candidate. And this is the part most people miss. These shifts reflect deeper voter sentiment that could reshape not only this district but send ripples into the broader political landscape. From a Washington perspective, the stakes are high. A Democratic win here would be a significant rebuke to Donald Trump, the Republican Party, and the MAGA movement. If this trend persists, combined with potential resignations in the House of Representatives, the balance of power could tilt toward Democrats. At the state and local level, Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation last Friday serves as a warning. Former Speaker Kevin McCarthy described it as a canary in the coal mine, suggesting other Republicans may consider stepping down. Together, these developments form a dual narrative: federal concern over party control and local voter shifts influencing immediate outcomes. Looking closer, this is more than a single election. The percentages, late-breaking voter decisions, and resignations reveal systemic pressures shaping the party and the movement. Each data point tells a story about leadership, loyalty, and the fragility of perceived strongholds. And clearly, this is not random. Local dynamics and national calculations converge, producing patterns that repeat across districts and elections. The consequences are clear. A defeat here would be historic, a rebuke not just of the candidate but of the movement itself. It raises questions about party cohesion, strategic foresight, and the limits of influence in contested districts. More broadly, it illustrates that local voter behavior is intertwined with federal power structures, not isolated anomalies. Reflecting on this, several questions emerge. How strong are party loyalties when voters change late in the process? In this plus 22 Trump district, Donald Trump recently posted a call to action. I'm asking all American First patriots in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District who haven't voted yet. Please get out and vote for MAGA warrior Matt Vaneps tomorrow, November 26th, the last day to vote early in person. You can win this election for Matt. Please vote for Matt Vaneps, who has my complete and total endorsement. Stay in line. They must let you vote. Stay in line. And yet, here is the striking contrast. A district designed with a plus 22 Trump advantage, heavily gerrymandered, where the Democratic candidate, Afton Bane, is within striking distance, only 2 points behind. To understand why Bane is so competitive, we need to look at both the demographics and voter sentiment. Davidson County, including parts of Nashville, is experiencing very high early voter turnout for the Democratic candidate. Meanwhile, Montgomery County, historically plus 21 or plus 22 Trump, now shows only a plus 1 advantage for Vaneps. Several structural and systemic factors are at play. Republican enthusiasm appears muted, driven in part by voters who feel let down by Trump and the MAGA movement. Farmers, especially soybean growers, have been negatively impacted by Trump's trade war, which backfired, hitting local livelihoods hard. Healthcare concerns, rising costs, and economic pressure are further suppressing Republican turnout. This combination, strong Democratic surges in Nashville and tepid Republican motivation in Montgomery, explains why the race is so tight. And clearly, this is not random. These are systemic pressures that feed directly into the local vote count. Examining the candidates, Matt Vaneps embodies the archetypal MAGA approach. He emphasizes culture wars, supports tariffs that have strained the local economy, and opposes the release of Epstein-related documents. In contrast, Afton Bane presents as a pragmatic and compelling Democrat, focusing on affordability and making government work for citizens rather than against them. Looking at specific data points, Vaneps publicly supports price-inflating tariffs. On Inside Politics, he stated that President Trump's popularity remains strong across 14 counties in the district, including rural areas where soybean farmers have suffered. Do you support tariffs? I do. I think the president is right in doing this. We've been getting ripped off for a long time, he said. On a local radio show, even a friendly host pressed him. Don't you think it pisses people off that Donald Trump is out there doing great Gatsby parties while this screws over everyday people in Tennessee? Vaneps reaffirmed his support for Trump's budget proposal, calling it the big, beautiful bill he would have voted for. And here is the part most people miss. The intersection of economic hardship, muted Republican turnout, and a compelling Democratic alternative creates conditions where a 2-point gap in a plus 22 district is not just possible, but increasingly likely. This is the structural story behind what otherwise might appear as a routine election. Matt Vaneps has also addressed the contentious issue of taxation. In his own words, I'm a low-tax person. I would have voted for the one big, beautiful law, locking in the largest tax decrease in American history. The problem, though, is that at the end of the day, the wealthy get to keep all of their taxes permanently while the middle class's benefits phase out. There's the frustration. And this is where the local sentiment begins to crystallize. Many voters in this district are looking around and thinking, Trump and everyone else appear to be prospering. They're attending lavish parties. He's making billions with investments in AI companies, while the middle class struggles. What about us? This perception, factually grounded in economic trends and public observation, feeds into the broader narrative of frustration and disengagement among traditional Republican voters. Turning to another flashpoint, the Epstein files, Vane's stance reflects his alignment with MAGA priorities. When asked, "Do you support the full release of the Epstein files?" he stated, "I think the Speaker has a great plan. I support the Speaker's plan for full transparency. The Speaker has empowered the Oversight Committee with subpoena power. They want to ensure justice is done and that victims are supported." Pressed further about whether he agreed that some Republicans advocate for full release, he replied, "I think the Speaker and the President have said they are supportive of full transparency, and that's my position as well." Yet, when the line of questioning turned toward actual release, he avoided a direct answer, noting only that Republicans are taking a deliberate approach. And here is the part many fail to see. Vaneps embodies a carefully constructed MAGA profile, a candidate molded to align closely with Trump's agenda. From tax policy to high-profile oversight issues, his positions suggest continuity with federal leadership priorities, yet also reveal the tensions between voter frustration, party loyalty, and local economic realities. This dual narrative, Washington-driven MAGA alignment versus the lived experience of Tennessee residents, underscores why the race is unusually tight and why systemic patterns, not isolated decisions, are shaping voter behavior. A notable contribution from a local community group has highlighted who Matt Vaneps is, offering a visual and narrative interpretation of his positions. Using a cartoon in an ad, the group depicted Vane's as a close ally of Trump, portraying him as aligned with federal MAGA priorities while continuing policies that critics argue have negatively affected Tennessee residents. The ad claims he supports tariffs that strain farmers, policies reducing healthcare access, and opposes transparency regarding high-profile oversight issues like the Epstein files. According to the ad, the Epstein files are locked away. Matt Vaneps will keep them that way, just a hedge fund puppet for the billionaire elite, bankrolled by their Wall Street cash. He'll give them tax cuts in a flash, support plans that would cut Social Security. Matt's a hedge fund puppet. Can't trust a word he'll say. If we want to clean up Washington, we best keep Matt away. Your community PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising. Here is the part that warrants careful analysis. This represents a local perception and political messaging, not an independently verified assertion. Facts, allegations, and opinion are interwoven. The ad is clearly an expression of community opinion aiming to influence voters, and it should be considered within the broader context of the election narrative. From a systemic perspective, it signals the extent to which local groups are shaping political discourse in this tightly contested district. Separately, in a different context, for audiences seeking wellness advice, Monora honey has been highlighted as a premium product. Users describe it as richer and creamier than conventional honey, sourced ethically from Manuka tea trees in remote New Zealand forests. Its bioactive content, 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than average honey, along with the antibacterial compound MgO, is verified through third-party testing, with results available via QR code. Recommended consumption is directly from the spoon in the morning to maximize both flavor and health benefits. The contrast is clear. While local community groups deploy narratives to influence voter perception in a high-stakes election, evidence-based products like Monora illustrate the importance of verifying claims and understanding underlying facts. It raises a broader question about how information, whether political or health-related, is presented, interpreted, and acted upon by the public. Reflecting on this, one might ask, how do localized narratives shape voter behavior in contested districts? What separates opinion and political advertising from verifiable fact? How can voters discern systemic patterns behind candidate positioning versus messaging tactics? And what responsibility do creators of both political content and consumer products have in presenting accurate, actionable information? From a consumer perspective, Monora honey continues to be highlighted as a distinctive product. Just 1 heaped teaspoon each morning is said to unlock its bioactive potential, though additional consumption throughout the day is acceptable, particularly if other sweeteners are being reduced. The product emphasizes verified health benefits, including antioxidants, prebiotics, and the antibacterial compound MgO. Monora is currently running its largest sale of the year through December 2nd, offering a Black Friday starter kit that includes an MgO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 35 travel sticks, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook, with a discount of $150 on the first order at monora.com/Midas. This segment, while promotional, illustrates how verified claims and structured marketing interact with consumer behavior. Turning back to the political arena, the House Majority PAC has launched a high-profile ad in this closely contested Tennessee race. The spot contrasts the candidates starkly. Tennessee's choice. Matt Vaneps versus Afton Bane. Vaneps wants 3 things: cuts to healthcare benefits, more tariffs driving up costs, tax breaks for billionaires. Afton Bane wants one thing: to lower your costs. She fought to end the grocery tax. In Congress, she'll stand up to both parties to make life more affordable. Want more of the same? That's Matt Vaneps. Want someone who will fight for you for a change? That's Afton Bane. HMP is explicitly responsible for the content of this ad. Looking closer at Afton Bane's own outreach, her grassroots campaign demonstrates a different approach. Selfie-style videos show her canvassing neighborhoods, speaking directly to constituents with enthusiasm and passion. In one clip, she remarks, "I woke up, and I'm energized. This poll shows that we're within 2 points. Let's go here." In another, she details her day. "Good morning, everyone. State Representative Afton Bane, the 7th Congressional District's special election Democratic nominee. It is cold, which is why my coat is so dramatic here in Nashville. But I woke up with the energy of 1,000 Dolly Partons and decided to go canvass because a new poll dropped showing us about 2 points behind my opponent, which is wild. I've got the election excitement wiggles. So, I decided to jump out of bed, go out and canvass early. It's the last day to vote early across the district. As you are preparing for Thanksgiving, please head to the polls. In some places, polls close at 12. In Davidson County, it's a little longer than that. And if you're coming home from college, guess what? You have the opportunity of a lifetime to flip a congressional district. Here's what you'll do. Come home, hug mom and dad, kiss the pug, kiss the dogs, then figure out where to vote. If you need information, go to iwillvote.com to find your polling place. Head out to the poll, and then sign up for a canvassing shift this weekend. We've got a day of action on the 29th. It's going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to see everyone. My gosh, it's wild times out here. It's the wild bang season. Y'all can relate. The girls can relate. All right, love you guys. Let's go out and win this." And here is the part that most observers often overlook. The contrast between federal-level messaging from PACs and Trump-aligned candidates versus the on-the-ground, community-focused efforts of local candidates like Bane illustrates a systemic pattern. The dual narrative, top-down political influence versus grassroots mobilization, reveals the mechanisms by which voter engagement, enthusiasm, and turnout can shape outcomes in tightly contested districts. And then compare it to Matt Vane's, who's like wearing his vest and saying, "Hey everybody, we don't like bathrooms. Hey, what do you think about the pee and the poopy in the bathroom? We don't like that. Hey, men's women's sports. What do you think about transgender? I mean, it's like, what are you doing? People are suffering, and you're doing this MAGA stick that doesn't work anymore." But here's Vaneps. My opponent wants new and higher taxes to fund her socialist agenda that will skyrocket our cost of living. In her own words, she is very radical. She supports transgender surgery for minors without parental consent and believes that men can give birth. Now, I want to show you this. This is what Matt Vanes wants in Tennessee. He wants ICE to go into that district, terrorize the community, and throw people into concentration camps. I guess he's at a pro-concentration camp in Tennessee. Here, play this clip. The American dream starts with law and order. I fully support the president and his initiatives and efforts around immigration. I fully support ICE and their operations to keep Americans safe and secure. I believe in legal immigration and coming in the right way and going through the process. Matt Vaneps was asked why he doesn't stand up for farmers and what he is doing with the Epstein files. Watch him run away. Play this clip. "Hey Matt, how are you? Mind if I ask you a couple questions? Why do you think it's important to keep supporting the tariffs even when farmers and ranchers are begging for them to end? Look out. Did you have to promise to keep the Epstein files hidden to get Trump? Are you going to vote to keep the Epstein files hidden? Help that cover up, Matt. I don't understand why you're not answering your questions." Vaneps deflected, saying, "I'm sorry, this is a private event. We're not allowing any media." The journalist replied, "But you're in a public building." Matt was dodging questions. Questions like, why won't you stand up to the farmers and ranchers? Why are you backing the tariffs? How do you feel about giving $40 billion to Argentina while ranchers and farmers struggle? What do you think about that, Matt? Are you going to not answer questions? Have you ever had a booger on your finger? Mark Green at least answers questions every once in a while. He's got a temper, so he answers stuff. Are you going to not answer? Are you going to be like all these other Republicans that don't have town halls, don't answer questions, and are really hard to find? Are you just going to hide from everybody? Why did billionaires put $2 million into your primary, Matt? What did you have to promise the billionaires to get $2 million to keep Jody Barrett? They didn't want Jody Barrett, huh? Voucher vultures wanted you in there. They don't want the tariffs. They don't want a bailout. They want trade, not aid. Why did billionaires put $2 million into your race, Matt? That's the real question. What did you have to promise? Are you going to protect the Epstein files? Is that why? In another segment, Matt Vanes emphasized his alignment with Donald Trump in nearly robotic terms. "Thank you, Donald Trump. I am so grateful for your endorsement," he said. In a public clip, he continued, "Mr. President, when I get to Congress, I will have your back 100%. I'm honored to be endorsed by our Commander-in-Chief, President Donald J. Trump." Yet when confronted with substantive questions about policy and oversight, Vaneps repeatedly deflected. A journalist asked, "Matt, funny running into you here. Afton was on with us yesterday, and she said that Speaker Johnson is waiting for you to get there so you can cancel out Adelita Gralva's vote on the Epstein files. What do you think about that? Does that sound right to you? Do you think that's Speaker Johnson's plan? Why was it so hard for you to answer the Epstein files question, Matt? Is that why they put $2 million into your race, so that you would go there and help cover up the Epstein files?" The journalist pressed further. "This is a simple question. You said you're for transparency. Why not just be strong about that, Matt? Why have he and haw so much? Do you think that's the plan? To get you up there to cancel out Adelita Gralva? Silence doesn't work. It just makes you look guilty. I'm trying to help you. Just give the line they gave you. Whatever it is, just say it, Matt. The Epstein files, your own people care about them." From the systemic perspective, this exchange illustrates a larger pattern. Federal alignment, campaign financing, and messaging discipline can override responsiveness to local constituent concerns. Vandepp's public emphasis on loyalty to Trump contrasts sharply with the questions about transparency, oversight, and policy impact, highlighting the tension between Washington priorities and local realities. In comparison, Democratic candidate Afton Bane framed her campaign around systemic economic pressures affecting Tennessee families. She said, "Make this about the affordability crisis that Tennessee is experiencing. Washington is making our affordability crisis worse, and working families in Tennessee are getting crushed everywhere. Utility bills, housing, groceries. Everything is going up, and the Washington Republicans do not have the solution to fix it." So for me, I decided to jump in this race after the passage of the big, ugly bill. It was a breaking point because it codified the greatest transfer of wealth in American history. I'm running because Tennessee deserves someone who will stand up for working people, not corporate donors. You know, Matt Vaneps, who you're running against. He's running the normal MAGA playbook. Culture wars, pee-poopy, bathrooms, focusing on symbolic issues rather than real challenges. Does this stuff still work? Where are people on this? Because he's running that playbook. And here is the part most observers often miss. The contrast between Vaneps's Washington-aligned loyalty and Bane's on-the-ground focus illustrates a systemic pattern in modern campaigns. Federal priorities, elite funding, and messaging discipline interact with grassroots engagement, shaping voter perception and electoral outcomes in tightly contested districts. It is a dual narrative, top-down alignment versus local accountability, that defines the stakes of this election. There is a growing sense of rupture in Tennessee's political landscape. Afton Bane explained, "Yeah, I think it's cracking. I do think there's a rupture. I routinely go on conservative talk radio, and I've been saying this from the beginning, especially around the rhetoric about immigration, that immigrants are not the reason your grocery prices are high. Period. End of statement. I've been saying that with my whole chest. The scapegoating is something people are realizing. There's nothing behind it, and it's a distraction to force us to blame each other rather than focusing on the real issue. The federal and state administration in Tennessee have not delivered an economic agenda that addresses the cost crisis in Tennessee." She further reflected on the broader systemic challenges. "I want to thank you for recognizing that Tennessee is a beautiful place and that there are people trying to do good work here. We have some of the best organizers in the country because we have to operate under incredibly oppressive circumstances. My biggest pet peeve in politics is when people who don't live in the South say, 'You get what you voted for,' because this is not what I voted for. I didn't vote for the highest maternal mortality rate in the country. I didn't vote for the most dangerous place for workers. I didn't vote for the highest inflationary cost of groceries. But that is what 15 years of Republican supermajority rule has done. Tennessee has been bought and sold to the highest bidder. Those are multinational corporations and the Billionaire Boys Club. There are no checks and balances, and what we are seeing right now is a rupture in their paradigm because they have ruled with an iron fist and squelched dissent and dissonance. I think we're seeing the kind of rumblings, the simmering of perhaps a different paradigm, one of which is economic populism that ensures the real villains are painted as the Billionaire Boys Club and these greedy corporations that are pitting us against each other and not delivering for the Tennessee people. And here is the part most people overlook. This is not simply about one candidate or one election. It illustrates systemic patterns, how entrenched power, corporate influence, and governance failures intersect to create economic and social stress in the state. The dual narrative, local economic realities versus federal-aligned policy priorities, demonstrates why voter sentiment is shifting, why grassroots organizing is critical, and why change may be emerging in traditionally secure districts. As we reflect on this, several questions arise. How resilient is the existing political paradigm when faced with widespread economic dissatisfaction? Can grassroots economic populism challenge entrenched corporate influence in Tennessee? How do federal and state policies interact to either alleviate or exacerbate local crises? And what lessons might other states draw from this simmering rupture in Tennessee? This is a moment for viewers to consider the deeper mechanisms of power, governance, and voter mobilization. Understanding these dynamics is essential not just for this election, but for grasping how systemic forces shape the lived experiences of ordinary Americans.